Today, we're going to talk about the process of change and why so many of us find it so difficult to change our lives the way we want to actually change our lives. And the way that change occurs for most people is that we start up in this sort of dream space. We create a few little goals. We then try and implement those goals. And as we start doing that, we start to go down this bit of a descent when we realize that what we're trying to do might be harder than what we thought it was going to be, or there's a lot more obstacles with what we're going to do. And then we hit this little trough at the bottom where we're a bit distressed about what's happening, and we then give up on what we're going to do and just forget the whole idea, or we start to implement some proper actions that will get us out the other side and lead us towards our goal. It's a pretty standard process for everybody of doing this. The problem is we find it really difficult, and we can get to the bottom of the hill and give up completely. So let's go through what is actually happening during this process and what we might be able to do to stop this being such a steep descent, or stop us from hitting it, or when we hit it, turn it all around and get to where we want to go. And I will use financial as the example because it's an easy one for everyone to relate to. Before we get started, my name is Mel Davies. I run a little business called Melodrama, which gives people tools to help them self-coach into a better place. All of my videos are a compilation of everything that I've learned about changing your life and how not to change your life, because I spent 10 to 15 years trying to change my life, creating a lot of chaos and drama for myself and not getting anywhere. So we have this goal that we want this financial freedom or financial stability, and we make all these dreams and hopes and wishes about where we're going to go, how we're going to get more income, or how we're going to make life better for ourselves financially. And then we start stepping out and going, right, these are the things that I'm going to do, whatever you've decided. And as you start to do them, you realize that it's a little bit harder than you thought it might be, or you realize that you didn't prepare as much, or you realize that even though you're trying to make these changes, all these other financial things are happening for you. And this acts as, the hard knocks that you're going to get till you get to the bottom. And after a bit of time, and that can happen quite rapidly or it can happen slowly, you get to this bottom where you think, this isn't going to change my life. This isn't going to make my life better. It doesn't matter what I'm trying to do. Life is just going to keep throwing rocks at me, and I'm never going to have this financial freedom that I want. That is quite normal for everybody when they're trying to make changes that are different. A lot of the times when we get to these big dreams, we create sort of sub-plans about what we're going to do. We don't really put a lot of thought into it because dreaming is really easy and there's not obstacles in dreaming. So it's really easy to push yourself into this path. When you're at the bottom, you then find it really, really difficult to see any pathway to a better life, because this is where you're really in despair. Things really go wrong. This is the time when if you're trying to fix your finances, this is when you're going to get the big bills. Your appliances are all going to break. Financial disaster is going to hit you at this time and confirm to you that you were never going to achieve those goals anyway. So what can you do to go from this dream wish state to the other side where you fulfilled the dream without having to do this dip through the middle? You actually can't, because what we are surrounded by nowadays is instant gratification. If we want something, we can get it like this. We can get information, we can get products, we can get things instantaneously. But what we have learnt because of that is that change, significant change, doesn't happen instantaneously. So if you're trying to improve your financial situation, it's not what can I do this week to make it better? It's what can I do in the long run, in the long-term goal that you need to be focusing on. And a lot of us have trouble doing that. And for a lot of you, you can't put a long-term goal and see success on that long-term goal instantly. So you have no choice but to go through the valley of despair, because you are going to hit significant roadblocks that are showing you the opposite of what you're trying to achieve. So if you set out, I'm going to try and save X amount of dollars, as soon as you try and start doing something, you get hit with a big bill, which sends you backwards, which hits you to the bottom, because that bill is inevitable, whether you're trying to improve your circumstances or not. Appliances are going to break, whether you want them to or not. Life is going to have financial hurdles come up all the time. So unless your financial goal is, I'm going to change my job to a job that's worth 3 times the value, and you can do it, and if you can, good on you. But if you can't just do that instant switch, there is going to be a pathway down to it's not going to work, to a place where it is going to work. And the more you understand that you are going to have this downward descent before you have an upward descent, the easier it's going to be for you to weather the downward descent and weather the rock bottom that you get. Now, rock bottom is nearly always mindset, with the realness of life hitting it. When you get there, you are going to automatically assume that it's you, you're never going to achieve it, you've done all the wrong things, your negative talk that you have, however that surfaces for you, is going to get worse. It's going to do a lot of, I told you so, I told you couldn't do this, I knew this would never work. You are going to get into this very mindset state. And it doesn't seem to matter at that point what bright lights are shining over here. You have to work on what you're telling yourself at this point. And that is one of the biggest, hardest hurdles. Because even when you think, oh, yes, I've said some positive things, and I watched some videos on mindfulness of money and money positivity, you will still be telling yourself in some form that it's not for you and you can't achieve it because you're terrible and nothing ever works out for you. And that is a really, really hard place to overcome. And it's a place where you must persevere with trying to let go of the badness and embrace the lightness of it. And it's something that could take you a long time to get over. It's not easy to let go of the negatives and be able to focus on the positives, because a lot of the time you notice, I'm going to start thinking, oh, yes, this is all really, really positive. But the back of your mind is going, yeah, but that didn't work last time, so I'll just stay in the negative. And that might keep happening. Yeah, every time you go, oh, I'll be really positive, it'll get negative. Oh, I'll be really positive, it'll get negative. It's these thoughts going on in here that you need to focus on the most. You need to get rid of those thoughts as much as you can. Learn to squash them in your head, write them down and scrunch up the paper. You have got to get the negative thoughts to be easily removable when they surface, because they'll always surface. Negative thoughts will always come up. We always focus on the negative over the positive because it's more entrenched in the way life is. You know, we seem to be able to do, I don't know why, we just seem to be able to focus on these negatives so much easier than the positives. You ever noticed you have a bad day and you go to bed and you replay the whole day over and over and over again, and it gets worse and you can't stop it from going on, but you have a really good day and you get into bed and you're really satisfied and you go to sleep. So we tend to focus on the negative so much, and what we've got to learn to do is let go of it, even and every time it surfaces. It's hard. Ways to get over. So how do you get over these negative thoughts? Like how they keep coming up, and they keep coming up all the time. How do you get over them? So one way is to sort of just close your eyes and just picture them shrinking and flicking them away, bringing in a positive thought to overpower it. Like, I'm going to focus on how terrible it is that my washing machine broke down. And then I'm going to have to try and focus on the fact that I can afford to get it fixed. So let's just go with that. Or, so my corset broke down, my washing machine broke down, because life is always sucky. And every time I think I'm on an upswing, something will break, and therefore life is terrible. But I had a really nice lunch with my friend the other day, and we laughed and we joked, and that is the positive part of my life that I need to focus on, because that's just how it works. So you've got to learn to try and squash it in your head. Grab the thought, think about it for a second, squash it right down and throw it away. Write it into books. My life sucks. My life sucks. Scrunch it up, burn it, get rid of it. You've just got to work on a way that when those thoughts come up, let them go, toss them away. And if you can do that, your mind will start to bring in the more positives. And you might have to think of, what are the funnest things that you've ever done? Every time I get a negative thought, I'm going to let it sit for a second and I'm going to flick it. And then I'm going to think of the most fun thing that I've ever done and relive the fun and the happy moments that I've had, to try and keep the negative at bay. So now you understand the cycle of change that we all inevitably go through. You can start by watching this, which is the first one of my 7-part series on how to go about changing your life.